thewellnesscouch.com, streaming wellness into your lives. This is Up for a Chat with Cyndi O'Meara, Karen Smith, and Kim Morrison.
Here we are, up for a chat about the hottest topics that are important to you, inspiring you to awaken the change within. I'm Karen Smith.
And I'm Cyndi O'Meara.
And the Tash, oh my goodness, the hussy of the household, she's actually off traveling the world like a little skanky $2 crack whore, going around, spreading her wares from here to Timbuktu, this one. Honestly, she's living the life of Riley right now, isn't she?
Yeah, we can't track her down, can we, ever? You know?
Well, she's getting ready to launch in New Zealand.
Yeah.
So that's getting really, really exciting for her. And it's amazing, Cyndi. We were just at the Wellness Basecamp on the weekend. For our listeners who weren't there, you totes missed out, which was really cool. But Kimmy is launching in New Zealand for her on the same day as her 50th birthday, which is the 28th of March. So I think we should just totally flood the Up for a Chat Facebook page with birthday wishes on that day. But don't worry, we'll talk to you again before then. But she's getting ready to launch over there. And I think it's amazing to think that, you know, this time last year, it was a very different picture for her. And she was talking about that in her presentation at the Wellness Basecamp, wasn't she?
Yeah, she was. That she was, you know, going to close the doors. It was just all getting a little bit hard. And then she ended up getting a partner. So, and now all of a sudden it's all turned around and they're launching in New Zealand and, life's going really well for her. I don't know about you, Karen, because I know you're almost a one-man show. I know you have assistants and people that help you. Mm-hmm. But like I have Howard. Howard runs the show.
Yeah.
I get out there and I'm the face of the show. So I'm the creative director. He's the managing director. Whereas Kim's very creative and she's the creative director, the managing director, the general manager, she was doing everything. And it's hard to be everything. You cannot be, a master of many things. You're usually a master of one, just a hack at the rest. And for me,
isn't that what they say? Jack of all trades, master of none.
Yeah, exactly. And I think you need to be a master. And we've learnt that in the book. I think it's The Outliers by Malcolm Gladwell. He talks about how do you become a master, and it's practice. And he says it's the magic number is 10,000 hours.
Oh, that's right. I was just actually thinking about that. Then I'm just going to Google this. The Outliers.
Yeah, The Outliers. And so his thing is that, you know, it's 10,000 hours being at the right place at the right time. So a little bit of luck happening there. Although when he says luck, I'm more about manifesting there, like really putting it out to the universe that this is what you want. So he gives a really good example of the Beatles. So the Beatles were outliers in that, you know, they're a group from millions of groups around the world, music groups around the world, who made it big and are still big to this very day. And he talked about the fact that they went to Germany, I think it was for 2 to 3 years, and they practiced basically by playing every single night in Germany for that amount of time, which he realised was around the 10,000 hours. They played every night for a long time. So, and he talks about Bill Gates in Microsoft, and he had this opportunity when he was 13, and that was the 70s, to be involved in computers. And, you know, he just became addicted to computers. So by the time he became Microsoft, he had done well over 10,000 hours. And I'm sure if we go through the many people that have done very well in their lives, they are masters of one thing, but not a jack of all trades.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So what did you find on the internet? I can't remember all the other steps because I read The Outliers quite a few years ago, but I do remember those magic formulas that he talked about.
Yeah, I'm just looking it up now because I've just actually, got distracted and purchased the book on my Audible.
It's really easy to read. You'll love it. It's I really enjoyed reading it. And I had a beautiful professional say to me one day, you're an outlier, Cyndi, which I knew what he was talking about. If I didn't know what an outlier was, I'd be thinking, he thinks I outright lie? Is that what he's saying? I'm outlying?
Oh, that's no.
But I knew what he was talking about, and I said, thank you. I know that's something that is worth being called. And I know I've done more than 10,000 hours of nutrition for the last, when I started my nutrition 37 years ago. So I know I've done my 10,000 hours, and the right things have come along at the right time for me. Now, whether you call that luck or manifesting, that's up to you, but I call it a little bit of manifesting, or a lot of manifesting, as I got to understand the energy and the universe. So, yeah.
It says here that he was able to write about the psychology experiments, sociological studies, law articles, statistical surveys of plane crashes and classical musicians and hockey players, which he then converts into prose, which is acceptable to the general audience and which sometimes passes as memes. And I think that's quite interesting, because from what he's written, because he's also written The Tipping Point.
Yes.
And also Blink, which are two of my favourite books, absolutely fabulous as well. I didn't realise that.
Yeah, he's a wonderful writer, and there's a new book that he's got out, but I haven't, or maybe it's not that new, but after I'd read his 3 books, I looked at this other one that he wrote, and it was a picture of a dog, I think in a lounge room, of what your dog, and I don't remember the name of it, but I just decided that.
What the dog saw. What the dog saw,
yeah. I just never got round to reading it, so maybe that's another one I need to maybe download on my Audible and listen to when I'm in the car.
It says it was published in 2009. It bundles together his favourite articles from The New Yorker since he joined the magazine as a staff writer.
Ah, is that what that was? Okay.
The stories share a common theme, namely that Gladwell tries to show us the world through the eyes of others, even if that other happens to be the dog. I love that.
Of course you do, Karen. You're not.
How interesting. Yeah, well, he definitely does talk about the 1,000 hours here. This is what I can see mainly on his writings, is that 1,000 hours of practiced time.
Mm. Oh, is it 1,000, not 10,000?
10,000. No, it's 10,000.
Oh, good. I was going to say, geez, I did 1,000 ages ago.
No, sorry.
Yeah, 10,000 hours.
Fabulous. Well, I've just bought that, everybody. Go ahead, buy that. Actually, you know what we should do? We should put an affiliate link for Amazon up here for all of the books that we recommend and read.
Yeah.
For all of our listeners, because there could be like a whole book club. Oh, Cyndi.
Yeah.
That could be fun, a book club.
Oh, I used to belong to a book club. I loved it. I absolutely loved being in a book club. It was when my children were in high school, and actually Kim was in our book club, and it was years and years ago. I think Kim introduced me to all of these people, and I went into it because of her, and I think Fleur was in it as well. And you know what? The book that stands out, there were 2 books that stood out the most, and that was The Shack and The Red Tent. They were 2 books that really stood out to me as books that really made a difference to the way I thought about things. And, yeah, I loved them. But what was interesting is with all the women that we spoke with in the book club, some of them hated The Shack, absolutely hated The Shack. So, and The Shack is now a movie. It just came out last year, and it's got an Australian actor in it. And, like, it did the book very well. It does it very well. So if you don't want to watch the book, watch the movie, The Shack. And The Red Tent, of course, is about Jacob and the multicoloured coat, or Joseph and the multicoloured coat, and his father, Jacob. And Jacob, of course, had a harem, basically.
As you do.
Yes, he had a polygamous marriage, and they were all sisters. And whenever they had their cycles, they would go to the Red Tent, and they would spend 3 days in the Red Tent while they had their cycle. Or if they had a baby, they would spend a month in the tent together, all the women. No men were allowed in the tent. It was just, that's what they did. And so it's the story of the only girl that is born to Jacob, and the rest are all boys, and she's the only girl. So it's her life, and her name's Dinah, and it's her life with all the women or all the sisters in the red tent, and and beyond, of course, but it's fascinating reading.
I think that sounds fabulous. Actually, I've had a couple of girlfriends read it and develop businesses out of that book. Yeah, two of my really good girlfriends actually read the book and then decided to create networking groups that have gone on to be massive successes purely because they've modelled from that kind of idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's been really amazing.
Oh, isn't that amazing? Yeah, so we did read some good books, but they were the two that really, really stood out for us.
Well, while we've been talking, Cyndi, just so that all of our listeners know, I have personally just created an Up for a Chat book club on Facebook. I will post the link onto the Facebook page where everybody can go into that closed group and post their book reviews on the best books that they've read. And if we just keep it updated, there'll always be something new and exciting there that we can be reading as recommendations from all of us together. What do you think?
Oh, my gosh, you're such an action girl.
I know, right? I know.
You are an action girl. I can hear you always tapping away and I know you're up to something, or you're purchasing something, or you're so far you've got the Outliers, and yes, you've created a book club for Up for Chat. Brilliant idea. I love it.
Yes, let's do it. So I'll put the link on the on the page. Yeah. But anyway, let's talk about what we're talking about today.
Yeah, the Wellness Basecamp that we did on Saturday. Look, I don't know about you, Karen, but I had a lot of people come up to me and say they'd been following us and that we had changed their lives. And we all know that we just give information, they change their own lives. But this is, what they were saying. So we're really happy that people are acting on what we talk about. But what I wanted to talk about, rather than, people coming up and praising us, what I want to talk about, Karen, is I loved your presentation. I don't know how you do it, but you come up with something new every time I hear you. And what's scary is that I say the same thing. I never change. I just say it in a different way. Like,
oh my God, Cyndi, you've never said the same thing twice.
I feel like every time I'm asked to do a talk, I go, well, I just say the same thing I have for the last 30 years or so. I haven't changed much at all. I just say, get off the sad diet and eat real food. That's it. It's not hard. It's not hard. But for some reason, I listen to you and I go, she must read and do science articles and, learn all this stuff. So, Karen, would you like to give us a brief?
Yes.
It was 35 minutes we had each, but I just loved your what I heard from you. It was brilliant, especially considering cannabis is going to be something that can be prescribed by our doctors. I do believe it's going that way, although some of my doctor friends have said that they're not allowed to even think about prescribing cannabis. They're in the health system, in the public health system, not the private health system. So
I actually thought that it had been legalised and that they could prescribe it, but the challenge that they faced was that no one has figured out the quantities for each illness. Therefore, it's all too hard and they're not doing it. I actually heard that it had been legalised here.
Yeah,
but because there was no, that there hadn't been enough study done to say, okay, so you need this much, for this illness or whatever.
So I was reading The Australian last week, and the only reason I read The Australian, because I wouldn't buy it, is to do the crossword. But every now and then I finish the crossword and I haven't finished my coffee, so I think, I'll just read what's in it. Anyway, I was reading The Australian, and this was only last week, and it basically... I'm sorry, I've got people complaining at me. I'm in Sydney, and they're really upset with me. They're yelling.
Oh no!
I'm really noisy. Sorry, guys, I'm going to come in here. Oh, too funny. She was just screaming at me.
Oh, no, we can't have that.
I know. She just pulled over at her thing. She says, "You're noisy. We're working in here too." And I didn't think I was that loud.
You're never that loud. Gosh, who's being so sensitive?
Oh, anyway, it's fine.
Never mind.
Yeah. Anyway, so where was I? I'm totally distracted.
You were talking about cannabis and it being legalized here in Australia, and you were reading
Australian, yes.
Yes.
So I'm reading the Australian, and it basically said that cannabis has not been studied enough. We don't know all the interactions. Yeah. And it went on and on and on. And you know what I did? I had a pen in hand because I'd just done a crossword. And I wrote on the side of it, oh, and yes, and all those drugs that you say you've studied and you haven't properly, and they're just pushed through the FDA, you're okay giving them to people, but you're not okay giving something like that to people. And I wrote on the side.
Good on you.
I just thought, well, I can't do an email, so. Yeah.
But what strikes me is it's curious about that. And, in my 35 minutes, I really didn't have a lot of time to dive into too much, given I was actually talking about presence.
Yeah.
But what strikes me as remarkably curious is that, and this is one of my first slides that I put up, is but in 1988, scientists discovered that there was a receptor site in the neurological cells that were THC, cannabis, receptor sites. And they were specifically, the shape of them was specifically for the THC molecule. And science was baffled to wonder, why would the brain come pre-wired with THC receptor sites? So then they did more studies, and then they found that the THC molecule is exactly the same in shape and size as another molecule which is naturally produced in the brain called anandamide. So anandamide has the same effect. Well, THC mimics the same effects on the body that anandamide has. So anandamide can be obtained. So it's a neurotransmitter, and it can be the body can be stimulated to generate anandamide or create anandamide by eating black truffles, parsley, celery, tea, dark chocolate, the purest of dark chocolate, through exercise, moderate sort of exercise, through flow. So
chili.
when we're in the zone.
Chili.
Oh, and chili.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So these are all ways that and one of the highest ways one of the greatest ways to get the brain to produce anandamide is through meditation, which was what my presentation was actually all about. But when I was putting all my presentation together, I thought to myself, how bizarre. I mean, how incredibly bizarre. The brain actually has a receptor site there that will take THC, yet science would rather have us take antidepressants or other chemically based drugs that the body doesn't have a receptor site for, claiming that it's it's altering brain chemistry when there's been absolutely no proof of that. In all of the years, there's been no proof of that. So much so that Zoloft has got over $10 million in legal claims from families whose children or family members have committed suicide from being on the antidepressant. Now, I only recognise that one because that's the one that I used to take.
Oh, okay.
Myself, for goodness sake, it's almost as if the body is wired for this for some reason. Granted, it's obviously it's for a natural production of the neurotransmitter, but it's and Ayurvedic medicine has actually known that anandamide has been like creating a high in the body, and yogis have been accessing anandamide for 5,000 years. And interestingly enough, I was reading a book that was written, back in the time of the Bhagavad Gita. So that was thousands of years ago, and they talk about anandamide.
Oh my gosh.
And anandamide is the Sanskrit word for joy, bliss, and happiness.
Oh, wow. That's so interesting. Joy, bliss, and happiness.
Yeah. So we can access, or we can create that sensation of almost being stoned while being completely awake and completely aware. And it's been interesting, actually, because I listen to a lot of Eastern philosophy. I've probably been studying it for about 6 years, 7 years now. And they often spoke of being able to be stoned or being able to be high while being totally aware. And I thought, that sounds a bit fictitious to me. But now that I've read this, and then I've come onto my computer and I've said, right, what does Western science tell me about that? And I thought, bloody hell, Western science only discovered this back in 1992, actually.
Mm.
And yet we're still arguing that it's a valid mechanism for healing and for health. I find it curious. I find it really curious. But, of course, there hasn't been a lot of studies done yet, and there will be. But,
like I always say, science is only learning what the body has known for millions of years.
Oh, God, Cyndi, you are so right.
Oh,
I don't ever think that you say the same thing all the time, girlfriend. You never do.
I'm just blown away by when I read something and the complexity of the human body. Like, I was just reading an article that basically was compiling a summit that was done in the US last year in 2017, and it was about the gut-brain connection and all of the intricacies of the gut-brain connection, from the vagus nerve to the microbiome, to the enteric nervous system, the immune system, which is 70% is sitting in your gut, the autonomic nervous system, from the parasympathetic to the sympathetic. It was just, and then they were going into the intricacies of the metabolites that each microbe in the microbiome releases, and what it creates and how it changes your thought patterns. It was like,
wow.
And when you hear this, you just kind of go, we're never going to know.
No.
All the intricacies of all the metabolites that these microbes make, and the genetics that they impose themselves on, whether they turn them on or off, and what about all the neurotransmitters that we make, we're never going to know, how that happens. And when you look, like, just at the vagus nerve, 95% of the stuff is going from the gut to the brain, not the brain to the gut. And we have terminology like, I have a gut feeling about that. I'm gutted. Terminology like Kimmy says, I'm gutted all the time. So, yeah, just comments like that. I think we have no idea yet, but we've been talking about it for ages. Like butterflies in my tummy, I've been talking about that for 50 years.
Oh my.
And everybody else has too, but we didn't realise that, how intricate that mind-body is. And they've just recently changed the name of IBS and functional bowel disease to disorders of the gut-brain interaction.
I actually saw you put a Facebook post up about that today.
Yeah.
Or was that yesterday?
Oh, who knows when I put it up. But yeah, I went to an amazing talk by a gentleman, you're going to laugh, by the name of Dr. Henry Butt.
Oh, dear. Oh, dear.
Dr. Henry Butt on poo sampling.
Oh, of course.
Yes, of course. And, he said, hey, by the way, it's just been, we've renamed it. And so we know that when you have a bad gut, your brain won't work as well, and vice versa. If you're thinking negative thoughts, your gut will be stressed and you will have problems. And stress, by the way, is a big part of gut health.
Oh, it'd be massive. I'd actually be interested to explore that, because we have, and the number escapes me again, because the gut is where we produce, 80% of our dopamine?
Yes, actually 95% of our serotonin is produced in the gut. I'm not sure about I think you're right about the 70% of the dopamine is produced in the gut. Yeah.
So when we're stressed, and or depressed even, and anxious, and all of that sort of stuff can kind of go hand in hand. But when we're stressed and we can't digest food properly and we start feeling irritable and all that sort of stuff, what's actually happening to the gut at that point? Like what's actually happening to it? Because you feel it all contorting, you feel all the muscles like pulling and contorting, because when you get the butterflies or the anxiety, or more anxiety than butterflies, but when you get that full-on anxiety or you get that full-on stress, like if the gut is producing so much of our serotonin and so much of our dopamine or our feel-goods, then it's only natural that we're going to feel so crap. And then you keep that sustained over a long period of time, which in today's society, most people are sustaining that for most of their lives. So what's the effect of that?
Well, we know that the vagus nerve, which connects the brain to most of the gut right through to the proximal colon, so the large bowel. So it connects with a lot. It is a parasympathetic cranial nerve, which means it's about rest and digest. So when you're stressed, you go into your sympathetic and you depress your parasympathetic. So you go into a fight or flee mannerism, which means that you don't need to digest, you don't need to have fertility, you don't need any of those things. You just need to run like hell with your arms and your legs. So all the blood goes to your arms and your legs, it goes away from the brain, so you don't think right, you become more anxious, more depressed. So that's one mechanism. Another mechanism is the fact that we do produce the serotonin, the dopamine, and the noradrenaline, and that then hits the nervous system and is a neurotransmitter, so it's a messenger. And if you've decreased the amount of dopamine you're making or the amount of serotonin you're making, then depending on which one, dopamine usually makes you alert, hypes you up, gets you going, makes you motivated, inspires you. That's what that does. But you've also got to have serotonin, which calms you down, relaxes you, and just, pulls you back down to earth, because you can't stay on that high all the time. So depending on, what's happening, they know that the minute you get stressed, you decrease the microbiomes, or not decrease, but you change the microbiome. By changing the microbiome, which makes the neurotransmitters for serotonin and dopamine in the gut, and stress does that, we know it does it in an instant, where we're actually having that interaction happen again. Stress changes the immune system. 70% of the immune system is in the gut. That then interplays with the rest of the body, including the brain. The enteric nervous system that lines the gut, which is a large percentage of the autonomic nervous system, is also being interacted with maybe metabolites of the microbiome. So I love how you read an article and it'll go, we know this is happening, we're just not sure how it's happening. And, and they have doubt. They actually have doubt about how is this doing this.
Well, so I think even if
there's a lot of systems at play there. It's not just stress and then affecting the gut. It's a whole body experience. That's why you can get goosebumps straight away. That's a whole body experience. Somebody says something to you and you get goosebumps, or you have butterflies in your stomach, like you're being told, you won't care, but somebody who's never spoken in public before, you have to go out there, there's 1,000 people out there, you're going to have to talk to them. Imagine what that does to people.
Oh, it makes them feel sick.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, it's amazing. Well, one of the questions that came up when we were on stage was from one of the women who I'd spoken to earlier. She was interesting, actually. She came to my table and she said to me, Carren, I've done everything. I've tried everything. And I just wanted to know whether the mindset or what I think and my thoughts and emotions and stress and all that has any link to my gut. And I said to her, oh my goodness. I said, how long have you been wondering about that? And she was like 6-7 years. And she said that she's done everything physically possible that she can think of to do, but she's still not right. She's still not feeling great. So she came up with the question asking, does the anandamide have a link to gut health? And you and I Googled that when we were on stage. But I think my answer was very similar in that everything is linked. Like what starts in the mind manifests in the body, what manifests in the body affects the mind. It's like this cycle. Nothing is separate. And whereas I think modern medicine would have us believe that everything is separate and functions in isolation, the reality is very different.
And I think, Carren, it's really interesting because it's always been mechanistic. That's medicine. It's a very mechanistic thing where they look from above and then they narrow down, and then they say, oh, saturated fat is bad for the heart, or salt is bad for hypertension, or sugar is bad for diabetes. Instead of going back up and looking down on the human being and realizing the connections, the sun, the exercise, the food, the thoughts, all interplay. And the fact that they have now changed functional bowel disease and IBS to, disorders of the gut-brain interaction is like, they're changing. They have to change. They can't just say go to a gastroenterologist because you've got a gut issue.
Yeah.
Go to a rheumatologist because you've got, arthritis. Go to a gynecologist because you're a female. We've got more than just our female bits.
Yeah. Yeah.
Go to a psychiatrist. They don't even think about what you're eating or what's in the gut. It's just, I know I talk about Kelly Brogan a lot, but I listened to Kelly Brogan and she said I was the specialist of giving drugs to postnatal women. I was the specialist. I was the best at it.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, and now she wants to get all women off medication. She wants to empower women. And hers is very much about meditation, by the way, Carren. She does transcendental, I think, meditation.
Yeah.
And I think, what's the yoga she does?
Kundalini?
Oh, Kundalini. Kundalini yoga. Yeah.
Yeah.
Tell me, why Kundalini? I don't know enough about it. You obviously do.
Yeah, well, Kundalini is beautiful, very unique. And there are lots of different meditation styles, but Kundalini has its own meditation. It has its own yoga style. And it's all designed to awaken this coil of feminine energy that it's believed to sit at the base of the spine. And through different meditation strategies and techniques and different yoga, it awakens the energy, and then the energy begins to rise up through the spine. And what's really interesting, when I've done a Kundalini yoga class and then I've done a Kundalini meditation session afterwards, I've sat there and felt my body swaying or rocking around in circles. And I never feel that. I never, ever feel that. And it's very subtle, but I can definitely feel myself doing it. And I've asked many questions online of a couple of the gurus that I follow who specialize in that. And they'll say, yeah, absolutely. That's the first indicator that you've started to awaken that powerful feminine energy that ideally is to rise up through the spine and then through the crown chakra. And there's a system that extends beyond the crown chakra. There's the 7th and the 8th chakra. And then there's actually 114 chakras around the body, or 144.
Joe Dispenza talked about that. He says we miss a lot of the chakras, and, we both love Joe Dispenza.
Oh, true.
By the way, he's coming to Australia. Maybe we should have an affiliate link for this one too.
I think we should.
Yes, I think we should. He's coming to Australia October 22nd to 28th. It's a 7-day I'm going. There's no way I'm missing this.
Yeah, I'm going.
It's 7 days. They haven't started booking yet. I know I've been on his booking page and they haven't released tickets, but it is on the Sunshine Coast.
Oh, shut up. Is it really?
It is.
The 22nd to 28th?
Of October 2018. Yep.
Done.
So I think we should do an affiliate link for that so that, we'll know who's coming on our Up for a Chat page, and maybe we can, have a little bit of a gathering together. Look, it's going to be amazing. Absolutely amazing.
what would be fabulous would be to do a couple of podcasts with all of the people that come from Up for a Chat.
Oh, that would be wonderful. In actual fact, what's really hilarious is I knew he was coming in October, because when I was in Las Vegas in August at his progressive weekend, which he said was his last progressive weekend, basically, and I came home to you and said, you need to do the progressive. You need to be the one that's doing it for him, because if he's not going to do it, somebody has to do it. Because to me, I don't get it. I'm like, it's like the Wellness Basecamp. I like to be there. I want to listen to that person instead of just reading their stuff. There's something about live. I don't know what it is, but there's something powerful about live and being immersed in everybody and everything that's happening within that. So anyway, I went up to his PA and I said, oh, when are you coming to Australia? I'd really like to do it. Can you give me a month at least? And she said, we don't know where it's going to be, but it'll be October. So I booked out the whole of October until he got his dates. And then he only got his dates, I think, about a week ago. So for people who are keen to go to Joe Dispenza, which will be about all the chakras, and he does the science behind meditation and how it affects the neurons and the connections in the brain. What fires together wires together. That's one of his big things. He just says, you keep firing them off, they're going to wire together, whether it's good or bad. So you might as well fire the good ones, and do the right thing, and then wire that together to make it a really important part of your life.
Yeah, and they say the longer they fire together, the stronger they wire together.
Together. There you go. See, you're doing the progressive. I say. If you're listening, here's your girl.
Oh, bless your heart. But actually, I'm doing his progressive online at the moment.
Oh,
he's already taken it online, and it's really just video footage of him speaking at a church organisation.
Yeah.
So it's not bad. I think it would have been much better to do it live.
Yeah. Well, he sends, when you sign up for the progressive, he sends you the whole progressive on video, which I didn't watch. I listened to. I figured I haven't got 2 days to sit and watch it, but I have 2 days to listen. So I might have downloaded and listened to it on the plane, or when I was driving, or, I listened more than I watched. And I listened. I go, yeah. And then I get there, and it's Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And it's not till Saturday at 2 p.m. that the penny dropped. So I'd listened to the whole progressive.
Yeah.
But it was 2 o'clock Saturday before the penny dropped as to what this was all about. And, I have such a wonderful memory of that 3 days in Las Vegas. But it was out in the countryside. That's the really good thing. It was, I can't remember where it was, but it was out in the desert, and you weren't in the lights, and I couldn't have stood that, especially doing that progressive. But yeah, so meditation is really important for calming the gut down and calming the brain down and giving you that hormone, that neurotransmitter. What is it? Anandamide. I've got to remember how to say it.
It's part of, they're saying that what's in the body is what's called an endocannabinoid system. Endocannabinoid system.
All these new words.
I know, right? But what they're saying is that just coming back to that gut link, they're saying that there's a direct link between the endocannabinoid system and the and its control of a variety of gastrointestinal functions, including motility, gut-brain mediated fat intake, and hunger signaling, inflammation and gut permeability, and dynamic interactions with gut microbiota.
It's fascinating. And
interestingly enough, here, see, they've got keywords: endocannabinoid, enteric nervous system, gut-brain microbiome, peristalsis, vagus nerve.
Yep, there we go.
That's all there.
All there.
Oh, my goodness. So we're talking about the same thing, that you're much more scientific.
Oh, like I read these science articles, and like the one I'm reading at the moment, which is on the gut-brain axis, it's, what's it called? I can't even, where's the beginning? Oh, here it is. It's called Stress and the Gut-Brain Axis, Regulation by the Microbiome. So it's, this is an article, and it was put out in 2017. It's a published article, but I love it. It says that findings such as what we're talking about right now have contributed to a paradigm shift in neuroscience and psychiatry, such that the early development and later function of the brain may be modified by targeting the microbiome. So they're saying we need to target this at birth, as opposed to thinking about it when we're adults. It's really important with, they talk about in the movie Microbirth, and they talk about the importance of a vaginal birth, because that's when we seed our microbiome with our mother's bacteria. And if we come through the skin, which is a C-section, then what we're doing is we're putting skin bacteria into the baby. And that's the last thing you want, because often there's staph in there, and it's a very different microbiome than what comes through, the vaginal wall. So there's, and what we do also know is that it's a generational effect. So let's say if my grandmother was affected by the arsenic and the lead and the DDT that was sprayed on the cornfields of Iowa, USA, and then my mother was exposed to that, and then I'm exposed to that, then my children then have been exposed to a lessening of the microbiome. And thus now what we're seeing is a lot of children with autism, ADD, ADHD, OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder. So we're starting, and anxiety and depression and panic attacks. Like I know this young girl, she's not even a teenager, and I watch her have panic attacks.
Oh my.
Unbelievable panic attacks. And it's over animals, believe it or not, Karen.
Oh, look, I can understand that.
Panic attacks over, over dogs.
Gee.
She's as tall as her dad now. Like, she's getting really tall as a 10-year-old, and she jumps onto his waist because she has panic attacks. And she's, her life is and I've seen it since she was a young girl.
So where does that come from?
Where is what?
The panic, that level of anxiety, because Joe Dispenza talks about those sorts of things potentially sometimes even being genetic, handed down generation from generation, as you're saying.
But is it not our cellular genetics, but is it the genetics of the bacteria that we hold within us?
Well, this is what I'm just asking the question as I'm trying to wrap my head around what you're saying, with the relationship to that. Is that true? Is that possible?
Most definitely.
That we could have such a psychological response. I suppose it does make sense, doesn't it?
Yeah. Well, with Dr. Butt, we learnt that when one species is low and another species is high, you can definitely expect anxiety, depression, panic, or OCD behaviour. He says it's almost 100. I don't think it was 100%. It was like 80 or 90% of patients that. So what he does is that you give a poo sample, but he also asks you a bunch of questions, and the questions are all mind questions. They're not necessarily gut questions. They're all mind questions. You're giving your poo out. And he asks you at the end of the questionnaire, would you like this to be part of our research? Now, he's been doing this for years and years and years. Like back in the 90s, he went to a gastroenterologist and said, I'd really like to do a study with you, and it's on leaky gut and the microbiome. And he said he was in the room 5 minutes. The gastroenterologist looked at him and said, there is no such thing as a leaky gut. And no, I don't want anything to do with you. This was,
wow.
He had been a clinical microbiologist and had started to see gut issues and mind issues. And so he wanted to, do a study with this guy. He was an eminent doctor in St. Vincent's Hospital, I think it was, in Melbourne, and he totally dismissed Dr. Butt. Probably because of his name, who knows? But
look, I would have changed that because that's just so uncivilized.
It's perfect,
especially when that's what you do for a living.
Exactly, but it's perfect. You're never going to forget his name.
It's just wouldn't, would you?
And he's just the most beautiful, beautiful man. And he actually showed me where his name came from. So he's actually Asian. He's Chinese.
Okay.
And he showed me the character of his name. And the character of his name is actually field and yield. So when you look at the character, it looks like 4 fields. And when you look at the yield, it looks like something has been reaped. And then mnemonically, it all ended up as Butt. And that was his Caucasian name. And so he took it on. You know, that was the Caucasian name that he took on. But when you actually see the character of his Chinese name, it's about fields and yields. And I think about it, we look at the fields of the microbiome, or the fields of the gastrointestinal tract, and where there is no microbiome or very little, where there's lots, and the yields of the microbiome and how they give us health. So he's the perfect. Dr. Butt is just perfect for this. You know, he was made for this. He was named this. But he's talking about that he is seeing a pattern. When one's down and one's up, this is what you'll get. When this one is producing this metabolite, this is what you're going to get. If this one's doing this, this is what you're going to get. And it's not actually in 100%. I realise there was never a clear-cut thing, but it was in a large percentage of people. And it's all becoming a little bit mainstream, this gut-brain interaction now. And in actual fact, I'm in Sydney right now, and tomorrow, and this will come out tomorrow, so everyone's going to miss it anyway, but I'm on this, what is it, Channel 10's...
Studio 10?
Studio 10, that's it. I'm on Studio 10 talking about the gut-brain axis and the interaction between the two. Yeah. How
great that they've got you on there.
Oh, look, it's so exciting that we're now talking about this, whereas, you know, here Dr. Butt tried to talk to a gastroenterologist about it and he just dismissed it.
Did he ever do his study then?
Sorry?
Did he ever go ahead and do his study? Did he do it by himself? Or?
Yeah. So this is what he's doing now. So he has a company called BioScreen, which is down in Melbourne, and, you know, he collects poo samples and he collects these questionnaires, asks if they can be in a study, if he can use them for a study. That they'll be anonymous, but he just needs to know how they're feeling, and then he looks at, you know, the variability of Bacteroides. So, look, it was just, and what I loved about him, he's a real scientist, and he's all about, we use this antibiotic for this and this antibiotic for that, but he's actually changing, and he's realising that it's no good wiping it all out. So he's starting to talk about essential oils, and he was also talking about broths. He said if you've got a low count of Bacteroides and a low variety of Bacteroides, so there's not a lot of variety in it, so you can have many species of Bacteroides. If you only have 2 or 3, he talks about the symptoms you'll have. And he said this is the way you get your Bacteroides back, eating broth. He said 5 to 6 times a day you must drink broth. Get rid of coffee, teas, and everything like that, and replace them with this broth. And he says, we know that this works to increase the diversity of the Bacteroides.
Good grief.
Yeah. So he was great. And he also talked about, you know, what he believed would help, you know, like omega-3s. It was all in the food. Turmeric. He talked about glucosamine, GABA. So he's changing his ways. Maybe his Chinese medicine past that he might have had is starting to really look at, or let's look at natural ways that we can do this. I think antibiotics have their place in getting rid of a bacteria that may be causing absolute havoc to not only the gut but the brain and perhaps the immune system. So they may have their place. I don't have enough knowledge on them, so I can't tell you what's right for whatever it is. But you know, we're learning to do it naturally and we're learning to understand it. But some people are in such a mess. You know, and I know you hate this, but it's going to be a big topic, and that's FMTs, fecal microbial transplants, where people, they're doing it actually now with people who've got an overgrowth of C. diff, which is one of the Clostridium diffidus, I can never say it. Anyway, diff, Clostridium. They will do a fecal microbial transplant in the US. That's the time they'll do it, because they know they can crowd it out by using other bugs from somebody else, not via the mouth but the other way.
Right. Awesome.
I would love it. Oh, it's very exciting, and because you're so into the brain, Carren.
Oh.
That's why you're touching on this, because now we're realizing that unbelievable, that unbelievable link that's there. And I think about you and how you changed. And yours was, I think, from brain to gut. Would I be right in saying that? You were more about getting the mind right, and maybe that fixed everything else up?
Yeah, it's really interesting. I had this conversation with my mum just last week, and because I said to her I was, going to watch what I was eating and blah, blah, blah. And of course my mum sits there eating a Turkish delight and then and then she had a chocolate eclair after that. And then I said to her mother, I said, really? I said, do you think you should have that? And she said, oh, darling, everything in moderation. You should just have everything in moderation. That's what my mother said. And I said, yeah, but food was different back then. And I said to her, I said, what's really been fascinating was been for me on this journey, specifically with you, Cyndi, is it's almost, and I really got it when I was researching for the anandamide. I really got it. It was like I started the brain. You've always been about the gut, and now I'm, like it's almost like we're meeting in the middle. Almost, it's almost like it's the two are so intrinsically linked that to study one without the other, now for myself, because I've only ever done the psychology, I've only ever been interested in the neuroscience, the neurotransmitters, the peptides. I've only really been interested in that brain stuff, and I've never cared too much for the body. I just thought, oh, well, that'll do, it'll do. But, I just really want to know about the whole thought process thing. But it's fascinating, because now with what you're saying about the bacteria and that affecting the way that a person has their moods or their whole psychological drama unfold is, can be because of bacterial imbalances. I'm blown away. I want to know more about that. I want to know more.
Oh, wow. I should give you my notes. In a day, I typed up 17 pages from Dr. Butt.
Did you?
Yeah, I just kept typing because it was so interesting in what he was saying, because he was more specific. I've been very general. We know this, but there's a couple of new sciences coming out, and one is called metagenomics, which is the metabolite of the bug affecting your genes to turn them on and off. So
again,
okay, so let me go to what we know. So the first thing is epigenetics. So epigenetics means above the gene. So that means the atmosphere you're in, the oxygen you have, the connections you have, the sunshine you get, the water that you drink, all of that is your epigenetics. You know that. So the next level is nutrigenomics or genetics, which is how the nutrition that you consume not only feeds the body and gives for body building and energy, but those nutrients talk to your genes and turn them on or off. So we know that exercise, which is epigenetics, can turn on 75% of healing genes. That's a science article from, I can't name the science article, but I read it, probably 10 years ago, maybe less, I can't remember. So we know that. We now know that food talks to your genes. And now this new science of metagenomics or genetics is the metabolite of the microbe can talk to your genes. So the metabolite being, what do they make? Do they make short-chain fatty acids? Do they make chiromycin, I think it's called, which makes enterobactin, which helps carry your iron. It makes your aromatic amino acids, which is the precursor for your body to make serotonin and dopamine. So those will speak not only to your nervous system, but they'll speak to your DNA as well, because it has to speak to your DNA, because what it does via enzymes is it speaks to your DNA to make, the foods, or the what am I trying to think, the biochemical components that you need. So metagenomics is a new study that's coming out. What else does it make? It makes folic acid, it makes B vitamins. These all talk to your genes. So these are your bugs.
This is amazing. I'm just Googling this now.
Metagenomics. It's quite amazing.
So people who have for me, I take a vitamin B supplement because if I don't take it, I feel it. And I take a blue spirulina, which is a really beautiful, it's like, for me, it feels like a power boost for my iron and my vitamin B and all of that sort of stuff. But if I don't take those things, I really feel it. Like I know I feel tired, I feel moody, I feel all those sorts of things. So what you're saying is the metabolites of the bugs.
Yep.
So what they poop out.
Or they make.
So,
you got to think that they're making aromatic amino acids for them. They're not making them for us. But it's just that we live in this amazing symbiotic world with them, that they also supply us with their aromatic amino acids, which is tryptophan, phenylalanine, and tyrosine, which are our precursors for serotonin, dopamine, and noradrenaline.
Yeah.
They make our B vitamins, but they make them for themselves. But we then,
benefit from them.
If you can, we've known this for a long time, that bugs make, and it could be fungi, it could be bacteria, it could be a virus, it could be a parasite. They make things for themselves, and yes, they also have. I guess stuff that is toxic because they have to get rid of it. And then we have to deal with that. And that's when it can cause a problem as well. So that will then be speaking to your genetics, not in a good way, but in a bad way, and to your body, because you've got these toxins that you're not eliminating. So they make an aldehyde, like acetaldehyde, and you'll always feel a little bit drunk all the time. And that means you've got bugs that are making acetaldehyde. Or if you drink one drink of alcohol, it feels like you've drunk 50 drinks because you're drunk immediately, because you're just topping up the alcohol that's in your system. So we know, and we've known for a long time, that they do this, and there are specific bugs that make specific things. They're very good at understanding Escherichia coli, E. coli, which is in our gut, but it's also everywhere. And they're genetically modifying E. coli to produce metabolites like tryptophan.
Oh.
Yeah. So they genetically modify it because they want to produce more tryptophan, or they might want to produce a ketone, or they might want to produce a vitamin of some sort. So many people don't realize that, not all, but there are more and more coming on the market, like supplements are being made by genetically modified bugs.
Oh, bloody hell.
Now, is that good or bad? I don't know, but I'm not playing with it. It's just something, because we know that, I think it was the 90s, tryptophan was made by a Japanese company using a genetically modified bug. And this genetically modified bug also not only produced the tryptophan, but also produced a toxin. They then bound that tryptophan with that toxin, not knowing that toxin was there, into a supplement, and I believe it killed around 100 people before they figured it out and picked it up. Now, because of that, tryptophan is banned in Australia, but they do also have different ways of making sure those toxins aren't there. So they identify that, and they'll purify, do whatever chemical process they have to do in order to get rid of it, so that tryptophan's by itself. But am I prepared to take Keto OS, which is made by genetically modified Escherichia coli with a bacteria that I can't remember the name of, and I can look it up, but I can't remember the name of it. Am I prepared to take that without fully understanding what it's doing to me or future generations or to my microbiome, which then in turn plays havoc with the metabolites, which then in turn affects the immune system, the enteric nervous system, the vagus nerve, and your brain.
Everything.
We're so complicated. Like, I really do think, who thought of us?
Well, it's interesting because I was putting something together earlier. I had to write an article for somebody, and I just decided to do it on water. And I'm writing about water and the messages in water and all this, but that mia saro, mia mato, or whatever that was. And I thought to myself, hang on a minute. We know that we need water. We look at water and we say that that's water. But what water does, no one has a clue. Like what it actually does and how it does it. No one has a clue. Like we can say it's H2O, we can say what it's made up of, blah, 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 but how does it animate life? And how does it sustain life? How specifically? Everything is complex. Everything is so complicated that to try and break anything down is almost impossible because you're looking for the innate intelligence in it as well. Then, so where did the bugs come from? Why do we even have the bugs? Why make that the system that runs the body? Like who invented bugs being the system that runs the body? Who invented that? I'm just sitting here thinking to myself, though, like if we wanted to try and do something for ourselves in terms of, populating our guts with as many bugs as we possibly can, what's still the best option for doing that if one's not quite ready to do a fecal transplant?
Well, I think it depends on the individual. So if I see an individual who's on the SAD diet, so that's the standard Australian diet of the low-fat, high-carb, highly processed foods that a new French study has just come out and said that we know it causes obesity, but we actually now think they cause cancer, but more study needs to be done. So these are these highly processed foods that have got additives, preservatives, flavorings, binders, fillers, and all of that. So if I see someone on something like that, I will just try and get them onto a real food diet. Like I said, my message has never changed. Just get off the SAD diet and get on the, a real food diet, organic as much as possible. Let's start there. Then if that's not working, then we have to dig deeper. We have to find out what is actually happening. So if you're on the SAD diet, then we've got a real food reset now. Start the real food reset. If you're on a good diet and you are having issues, then we need to go deeper. And that's when, I send people to Sheridan, our beautiful nutritionist, who is an absolute specialist on gut health, or to Jordan, they're both GAPS practitioners, Kirsty Worth. I don't know where I got Kirsty. Oh, Kirsty Marshall was a snow person.
Oh.
She was in the Olympics. The Olympics have been on. Anyway, Kirsten Worth, her cultured wellness. So start getting fermented foods in. Those broths are really important for increasing Bacteroides variety and diversity. So, we start slow if we have to, but if we're in a really bad way, then we have to dig deep. And the way we dig deep is that we have to, first of all, eliminate foods, get rid of the foods that are causing the problem, and any parasites or any problems that you have in there. Then it's about mending the gut lining, repopulating, giving nutrition to the body, and then revising what's working and what's not. So I believe 37 years ago when I started, it was easy. We just got them off breakfast cereals, margarine, modified milks, pasta, plastic cheese. We just off lean cuisine and healthy choice, as they call it. I just get people off that and I put them on real food, and they improved. But I'm not seeing that anymore. I think we have a generational issue with the gut microbes. and our food is worse. We're being completely blindsided by food manufacturers in believing that they're making healthy foods for us. And I heard somebody say, but the government wouldn't allow that.
Yeah, geez.
I went, what, you believe the government?
Seriously?
Yeah, and you've got to educate yourself, as you do all the time, Carren. I never see you not educating yourself. You have to educate yourself, figure out what is your best move, go to somebody who knows what they're doing, ask for help. GAPS is wonderful, Kirsty's program's wonderful, or just the Real Food Reset that we do at Changing Habits gets you off bad food. So it depends on the individual, where they are, how bad they are, what they're eating. There's a lot of questions that I have to ask before I can say exactly, but there's a kind of summary of what I could possibly do.
Yeah, and it's interesting that you say, things have changed and times have changed. I'm just thinking about another conversation that we had about sleep and snoring, and I'm thinking about a friend of mine who's got a little boy who's, struggling with anger and really just blowing his top, and he's just a little kid. He's just a little kid, and they've been beside themselves for the last 2 years with him, absolutely beside themselves. So now they're trying to change their parenting style to support him, and they've seen kinesiologists and psychologists and psychiatrists, and he's been on medication and off medication, and and it's interesting because I see how hard the parents are trying to support this little kid. And I just, now that we've spoken about what we have here today, I just wonder how many parents are missing this link, because granted, it's only new knowledge, but it's an important link to investigate rather than thinking you're a bad parent. It could very well just be an imbalance there.
Well, Dr. Butt talked about anger, and anger, when he saw bugs doing a certain thing, he said, you'll be angry, have a short temper, be intolerant. Look, it's amazing. I don't know if you've seen The Magic Pill by Pete Evans, but in The Magic Pill, there's a little girl, and she is jumping off the walls, basically. She's ping-ponging herself everywhere, and she's on, I think, nuggets. I think chicken nuggets. Oh. And all Pete does is take her off the chicken nuggets. Well, Pete doesn't do it. There's a nutritionist that does it, and it's in America. They take him off the chicken nuggets, and in 6 weeks, her face has changed. She hasn't got this angst and anger about her. She's actually, it's phenomenal what happens to her face. And she's not bouncing off the walls anymore. And, she's a far better human being. If this young boy that has, anger issues, it's often an imbalance of his microbiome that could be part of the issue, because I think you have to look at everything. You just can't look at...
I was going to say, it's a holistic approach.
Yes.
It's a holistic approach.
Yeah, exactly. You can't just look at the gut to the brain. You've got to look at the brain to the gut as well. So it is maybe looking at parenting and how do we get into sleep, and sleeping is really important, and sunshine and movement and getting him off screen time, and I don't know how old this kid is, but these are all important things that we've got to do in order to bring balance back to the microbiome, and that have that beautiful gut-brain axis working, where messages are going both ways, and they're helping each other as opposed to hindering each other.
Amazing, Cyndi. Amazing podcast. Seriously.
We weren't going there, were we, Carren?
No, we weren't, but we knew. We knew before we even started this could go anywhere. I think it's been an amazing podcast, and I've probably got more questions that I'm going to go ahead and continue researching when we get off this call, because I think that just as you've been speaking, I've been thinking of all of the little people that I know. And a few of them, unfortunately, the parents don't want to look that far, so that then they start to discipline the behaviour. And so that the child is just constantly being disciplined, and they don't understand that there's more than that. It's not just that the kid's a bad kid. Because, I honestly don't believe there's any such thing that a kid is a bad kid. Nobody's born a bad kid, So I think that there's just so many different people now that I'm just thinking off the top of my head whose parents, the parents are putting themselves through so much hell, where if they wanted to, is part of them supporting themselves with food, just as a place to start, is to do your reset and then to get onto Kirsty Worth's kefirs and yogurts as a place to start, would you think?
Yeah, and my probiotics work well, and my colloidal minerals give them the minerals that they need, and there's so many avenues we can go down. But Kirsty's cultures are good, especially her coconut water, which you can do with apple juice.
Yes,
kids love it. It's like a fizzy drink, so they actually like it. And then I use my probiotics, which are a different strain of bugs, not just, like we look at all different strains of bugs, that I put, into a smoothie for them, and they love their smoothies. So, that would be the best place to start, I would think, is just get off that. And, I remember in the 80s writing about ADD and ADHD, because they were the things that were a problem in the 80s, because this is when colours and flavours and all of those things came into our diet, and we knew it was science that there were colours and there were azo dyes that was causing hyperactivity in children. Take the kids off these colours and they were fine. So we've known this a long time. It's just that for some reason medicine is just catching on that nutrition is so important. I was talking to a medical doctor that was at our conference over the weekend at the Wellness Basecamp, and she's a good friend of mine. And before we even started the day, we were having a chat, and I don't know, I said something about this doctor in the Sunshine Coast at the moment who is thinking outside the square. He's a gastroenterologist. He's thinking outside the square with diet. And I was going to his talk, and then she looks at me and she says, yes, the microbiome and gut health is all the rage at the moment, Cyndi. And I went, well, that's a great thing.
Yeah. And it's about bloody time.
It's good.
Wow. Well, I've loved today's podcast. It's been an absolute trip. A brilliant, brilliant show, like a brilliant, brilliant show. Just because I think you've really distilled things down into a very simple process, but also, put so many pieces of the puzzle together today by what you've learned from Dr. Butt, Henry. But I think that's amazing. For all of our listeners, I'm probably falling over my words right now because my brain is just ticking over with so many ideas. So for all of our listeners, if you guys have got any questions about this or thoughts about what this podcast has been about, I really, really want to encourage you guys to go to our Facebook page at allthews.facebook.com/up-for-a-chat and post your questions and your comments right there. We may not be able to get to everybody, but if we can get a general theme of questions that you guys have for us on this particular topic of the gut-brain connection, and whether the brain, the order in which the body's being affected, is it the brain to the gut or the gut to the brain? I think all of that is such a massive, massive question that we have to explore. We can't leave that. So any questions you guys have got there, we'll go through them and put a thread together and see what we can do to give you guys some answers. I've also popped up onto the Facebook page. We've had a couple of people already join our book club, which is kind of fun.
Oh, cool.
I know. It's cool. That's really cool. So go ahead and join the book club. You're going to see the link. It's going to be sitting just underneath this podcast. So you'll see that there. Join. It's called or if you want to have a look for it, it's called the Up for a Chat Book Club on Facebook. And that's where you can join us and post comments and reviews and photos of your favorite books so that we all can kind of ride on your coattails. If I see something fabulous that you guys have read, I'm going to read it too. So go ahead and do that. And you can also post your comments and your questions at allthews.thewellnesscouch.com/up for a chat. So thank you, my Cyndi, my darling friend. Thank you for today's podcast. You've been an absolute champion as always.
And I've enjoyed talking with you. It's been amazing, actually.
Love it, love it, love it. You've made my day.
Mine too.
All right, chicken, we'll enjoy your time tomorrow on TV. We're going to keep an eye out for you. You're just going to be an absolute rock star. Absolute rock star.
Thank you.
All right, my love. Well, we'll see all of you guys next week, same time, same station, right here on Up for a Chat, where you become part of the ripple effect that's changing the world. And don't forget, we are going to see you on the hike. We've got New Zealand next year, and we in 2019, we've got New Zealand. 2020, we have Europe. If you've got any inquiries on that, before I sign off, info@karensmith.com. We are getting the information through in terms of the itineraries and the pricing. So make sure that you send me an inquiry so that you can be on our expressions of interest list, because those positions are going to fill fast. So we're going to see you here next week, guys. Have fun, enjoy, take care of each other and take care of yourselves. Bye, everybody.
This has been a production of TheWellnessCouch.com. Check us out on Facebook and join in the conversation on Facebook.com/TheWellnessCouch. Subscribe to each show on iTunes and check us out on Twitter. The Wellness Couch, streaming wellness into your lives. Whilst the Wellness Couch presenter endeavor to provide accurate and helpful information to their listeners, these podcasts cannot take into account individual circumstances and are not intended to be a substitute for health and medical advice from a qualified health professional. You should always seek the advice of a qualified health professional before acting on any of the information provided by any of the Wellness Couch podcasts.